we can look at the issue of what is called marital rape. Marital rape. In the 90s, 1993, it was made a crime punishable with jail in the US. And it spread across a number of countries in the world. Marital rape. Now, the reality is that according to Sharia, there is no such thing. There is no such thing as marital rape. Because when a husband and wife marry in Islam, there are rights which have been specified for the male and rights which have been specified for the female. And amongst the rights of the male is that if he calls his wife to have relations with him, she's supposed to come. And she marries under that basis. So the idea that she is going to say no, and he forces himself on her, and that now becomes a crime punishable with 12 years in jail. 12 years in jail. We can say, well, maybe, he shouldn't have forced himself. If the force is coercion, non-physical, then still, should he be charged? If it's physical, he has beat her up, he broke an arm or whatever, okay, we have an issue. This is now violence. And the punishment is not for marital rape, but for violence, for harming his wife. That's the point in Islamic law. But not rape in marriage. And in fact, though the West has taken it on and now it's become quite a standard, some of the biggest countries in the world, China, there is no marital rape. India, there's no marital rape. Here, Nigeria, there's no marital rape. Biggest country here in Africa. Second biggest, Ethiopia, Muslim population-wise, general population-wise. No marital rape. And a number of other countries around the world. Indonesia, 300 million people, no marital rape. So this is something limited to a particular part of the world, with their view in terms of the male-female relationship. So what has happened is that feminism went from practical, institutional efforts to ensure women their fair, just, and equal rights, into areas now which went beyond the boundaries of what was just fair and just.
So, marital rape in Islam. It's shocking to see that some brothers are a bit confused about this. Some brothers of knowledge who are doing dawah talking about rape. And they'll say, well, when you sign the contract of marriage, that you agree that it is okay. I think they need to be careful in picking their words. I'm not sure if we're misunderstanding what they're saying, but I did see some concerning statements. See, Islam is based on principles, and no one can change that. And Allah tells us, فَأْتُوا بُرْحَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Just because you're married to someone does not necessarily give you certain things or the ability or license to do certain things. People are confused about this marital rape. So it's not about pushing yourself. Sisters, sometimes they go, very angry. It's not permissible for a man to beat her, to hit her, to go himself onto her, and so on, to pin her down and to rape her. No. But the whole taking a written consent or record it, or hey honey, can I penetrate? Yeah, can I do this? You've already done that when you paid your mahar, you wrote the nikah, or you agreed on the nikah, you paid your mahar. It's halal, it's permissible to you to go on to your wife. Even if she has a headache, she says, I don't want to right now, please leave me alone. And you still go and you go through it, right? That's not rape. She allowed you to. Like you didn't pin her down. You just go, boh, and then pack and come on, I'm going to do it. No. All right. There's a huge difference between the two. I hope that clarifies the issue. Again, to respond, in Islam, it is not permissible to rape a woman. It is dhulm. It is evil. It is someone fighting someone abusing someone. And there's principles in the Sharia that do not allow us. We go based on principles, we go based on rules, we go based on what the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba taught us, not on what, we try to extract our own selves from our minds and so on, out of whatever. We have to stand for justice, even if it's against ourselves, our own nafs, and so on and so forth.
Is a husband entitled to force his wife to have sex with him? And this is the answer from Egypt's Darul Iftar. Marriage in Islam is founded on love, mercy, and affection. There is no doubt that any sexual act accomplished by force is forbidden in Islam, and that consent plays a main role even between married couples. Prophet Muhammad forbade the use of violence and forcibly compulsion of sexual intercourse with one's wife. He said, "None of you should flog his wife as he flogs a servant and then have intercourse with her." In Islam, marital rape is also represented in the request of anal sex, intercourse during menstrual cycle, and fasting hours of Ramadan. Additionally, a woman is entitled to deny herself in the following cases: if he is violent with her, if he has an infectious disease, if he uses violence that can cause her physical harm during sex, if she is physically or mentally sick. Islamic law has even established certain etiquettes that couples should follow prior to intercourse. God says in the Qur'an, "Your wives are a tilth unto you, so approach your tilth when or how you will, and do some good acts beforehand, and fear Allah, and know that you are to meet him in the hereafter, and good tidings to those who believe." And this is from a passage in a booklet called Women's Rights in Islam by Egypt's Darul Iftar, which is a body of Muslim scholars, including the Grand Mufti of Egypt, who give fatwas, i.e. legal rulings, religious rulings on a number of matters. So this is clear evidence that marital rape is haram, is clearly prohibited in the Sharia, and it is not permissible for any man to force himself on his wife, to engage in non-consensual sex with his wife, to engage in marital rape. These are all heinous crimes. It is a heinous crime, it is an offense, it is sinful, and it is not allowed in Islam.
إخوة أيتها الأخوات، لا يخفى عليكم ما يجري في العالم الغربي من إباحة الخليلات، حتى هناك بعض القوانين في الغرب بأن الزوج إذا جامع زوجته رغبة عنها، أي وهي غير راضية غير راغبة، فإنه يحاكم ويسجن. أما إن نام مع خليلته فلا بأس في ذلك برضاها، وهذا معمول به في القوانين الغربية. وحصل في الغرب أن مسلما تزوج من ثانية زواجا شرعيا، فقامت الزوجة الأولى ضده دعوى بأنه قد عدد الزوجات، فماذا سيعمل؟ قد كذب في شهادته وقال إن هذه الزوجتان ليست زوجتي، هذه صاحبتي، هذه خليلتي، فالمحكمة قد أخلت سبيله، فلم يقع في محظور في هذه الحالة. وهذا موجود في الغرب كما هو موجود لدى السلطات الإسرائيلية المحتلة، وقد حصل وأن سجن بعض المسلمين لأنهم تزوجوا من ثانية. ولكن إذا قال هذه خليلتي فهو يجوز له. انتهى الوقت. نعم. وآخر نقطة، حصل أيضا أن زوجة متمردة على زوجها أقامت دعوة ضد زوجها بأنه نام معها غصبا عنها، فاعتبر مغتصبا. الزوج يعتبر مغتصب وله عقوبة عالية جدا، عقوبة المغتصب لأنه نام مع زوجته دون رغبة.
There's one topic I want you to talk about. I've seen that you've dealt with it before. I don't know whether it's factual or not. But that is rape in marriage in Islam.
Okay, this is one of
What
the...
is your view towards it? Because this is, there are a lot of, views, regarding this topic.
Okay, the thing is that rape in marriage, marital rape, is a feminist argument based on the belief that males and females are equal, exactly the same. What's good for males is good for females. It should be exactly the same. But the reality is that males and females are not the same. That's why in the Olympics, we don't have men competing against women. Why not? If they're the same, that's what we should do. But reality is that if you did that, the men will win all the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time. So the idea that there are differences in responsibilities, etc., this idea, is looked at as being backwards and, archaic. It's not relevant in these times when women, due to technology, are able to do their flying planes and driving tanks and, buses and all these other things now, jobs that were normally male jobs, women are doing them now, and it's happening in these societies. And they say, well, when you don't do that, then half of your population is being prevented from being in the workforce, prevented from benefiting the society as a whole. This is part of the arguments which are used. But from the Islamic perspective, the responsibility of the male is different from the responsibility of the female. And the family has to have a head. They say, well, no, it's 50-50. But the point is that when you have 50-50, what happens when you disagree? Because you're not going to 50-50 agree all the time, right? You're going to disagree.
Exactly.
So if both are exactly equal, then what happens? Marriage breaks down. So that's why you have the rate of divorce in the West just shot up. And it's still shooting up. Because there is no head of the family anymore. People are equal. And of course they want to divide up the inheritance equally also. Yeah, but son and the daughter, what's the difference? They're not operating under the responsibility principles of Islam, where a son has more responsibilities than a daughter. If the parents die, he has to take over and manage the situation that is there. He is obliged to do this and that for his sisters and, his mother if she's still living, and the father, and so on. So the inheritance is divided up based on the roles of the members of the family. Males have more responsibility than females. That's just the bottom line. And it is the natural way, Throughout history, as far back as we go to societies all around the world, they've been led by males. So when you see a situation like that and you still want to insist that no, they should be equal, then how are you going to explain that males have led societies in 99.9% of the circumstances throughout history? How do you explain that? The only thing they left to say now is the men are oppressors.
Yeah.
You know, they're the bad guys. You know, so they attack males, so chauvinistic and all kinds of terminologies to indicate, you know, that males, you know, have all kinds of gender bias and issues and this, like it's all the men.
Is a husband entitled to force his wife to have sex with him? And this is the answer from Egypt's Darul Iftar. Marriage in Islam is founded on love, mercy, and affection. There is no doubt that any sexual act accomplished by force is forbidden in Islam, and that consent plays a main role even between married couples. Prophet Muhammad forbade the use of violence and forcibly compulsion of sexual intercourse with one's wife. He said, "None of you should flog his wife as he flogs a servant and then have intercourse with her." In Islam, marital rape is also represented in the request of anal sex, intercourse during menstrual cycle, and fasting hours of Ramadan. Additionally, a woman is entitled to deny herself in the following cases: if he is violent with her, if he has an infectious disease, if he uses violence that can cause her physical harm during sex, if she is physically or mentally sick. Islamic law has even established certain etiquettes that couples should follow prior to intercourse. God says in the Qur'an, "Your wives are a tilth unto you, so approach your tilth when or how you will, and do some good acts beforehand, and fear Allah, and know that you are to meet him in the hereafter, and good tidings to those who believe." And this is from a passage in a booklet called Women's Rights in Islam by Egypt's Darul Iftar, which is a body of Muslim scholars, including the Grand Mufti of Egypt, who give fatwas, i.e. legal rulings, religious rulings on a number of matters. So this is clear evidence that marital rape is haram, is clearly prohibited in the Sharia, and it is not permissible for any man to force himself on his wife, to engage in non-consensual sex with his wife, to engage in marital rape. These are all heinous crimes. It is a heinous crime, it is an offense, it is sinful, and it is not allowed in Islam. Myth. It is husband's right to force his wife into having sexual intercourse regardless of her own physical or mental state. This is referred to as marital rape, which is completely haram in Islam. The fact is, the concept of forcing in Islam is completely prohibited in all cases. Matrimonial life in Islam is essentially based on mercy, love, and tranquility, along paying extreme care and consideration for the feelings of both parties without boiling the relationship down to the mere fact of demanding rights. Prophet Muhammad taught us how to lead a successful marital relationship through kindness, gentleness, and care between spouses. This means that the husband should be caring and understanding to his wife's feelings and needs. The wife from her side has to show love to her husband and understand that intimate relationship with her husband increases their bond of love and care. So this is from Darul Iftar, which is a body in Egypt of scholars who give rulings on a number of matters, and this was from a passage in their booklet about women's rights in Islam. And this is again by Egypt's Darul Iftar, which is an organization, a body of scholars who give religious rulings.